Are there more men? Yes. Does it aggregate to the higher education positions? Yes. So if you go down to kindergarten, it will be very rare that
Yeah.
you find male people working in that position. In fact, I think I was one of the first because I worked in one of the first jobs that I had after I left university. Not the first job. I had a few different jobs, but one of the first jobs I had was working in a kindergarten because I studied in England, but then
Mm-hmm.
for 1 year I moved back to Scotland and I worked for local organizations in Scotland
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and did a lot of children's events, children's activities. And the person that I worked for at the time said to me, "You should work in a kindergarten. It would be a good experience for you." And I said, "Okay, okay, all right, I'll do it. I like, why not?" And it was a great experience. It was a great experience because it was very alien and foreign to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I worked a lot with children, but not with really young children.
Mm-hmm.
And so learning to be in their world, which focuses back on what we discussed at the beginning, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, it's it's society is very much orientated on children have to learn to be in the adult's world.
Mm-hmm.
But in the kindergarten, the adult has to learn to be in the child's world, which is the opposite. And I was completely lost at first. I was trying to be all practical and rational and logical and reasonable. And those attributes are fine in the adult world, but they don't apply to the child's
Mm-hmm.
world because that's the infinite, limitless potential environment. And um, there was it, it was very odd because as an adult you're physically bigger and stronger and you have all this knowledge, but that doesn't relate to how you need to connect to the child. To connect with the child, you first of all really, really, really have to be interested in what they're doing, or they have to be really, really, really interested in what you're doing. And that was hard work at the beginning to 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 change my own approach and my own mindset
Mm-hmm.
in that environment. And it took me a long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
I worked there for not full time, but part time uh for a couple of months, 3, 4 months, maybe more. I can't remember exactly. It was a long time ago. And it took me a month at least to orientate my head around
Mm-hmm.
how to how to learn their language and communicate with them in their way, uh, and to appreciate their differences and their likes, and that if they didn't want to communicate with me, how to handle that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that was a real revelation for me in I think relearning everything, or taking a step back and almost learning to approach everything like you know nothing. Just approach it from the perspective of the allow the child to educate me about themselves and their interests and their knowledge, and where possible add to the child's experiences, yeah, that they're having in that moment, and not try to dictate too much to them, not try to dictate things to them at all, really. Um, and so, yeah, I did. It was very difficult, and I, you know how it's portrayed in films in a very comical way, where there's a really, really, really stupid film called Kindergarten with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
he's the the muscle man, the big hero who has to go and work with children.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
it's not a great film, but the whole concept and the whole idea is there, that the world of children and the world of adults is completely different. And
Mhm.
um, and the world of children is almost, I think, a magical place. And that there's positive and negative in that, right? Positive is infinite possibility. The negative is that, well, there is no magic, right? Right? There's no, there's no fairy godmother's going to come and wave her magic wand and make everything okay. It's not going to happen, right? So, that balance, knowing that balance is important. But big shock for me at the time, and extremely important for later in life learning as well. Yeah. Um, I'm a great believer that the problems of the world are not caused by children, they're caused by adults. And that has led me to the conclusion that we lose something as we grow up.
Mm.
And I don't know what that is yet. That'll be some when, when I get to the age of 70, maybe I'll figure that one out. I'm not exactly sure. Um,
Okay.
just on a personal level, adults go and start the wars, not kids. So I mean, it's
Definitely.
obviously that something gets lost as we grow up, and um, being around children really reconnects us with the things that matter a lot. And so yeah, anyway, I worked in a kindergarten. It was a big shock, and it was, but in it, and the things that we need that we don't know that we need are really interesting. And it was something I needed, but I didn't know that I needed it.
Mm.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to have somebody around me who said, "You need to go and do this," and they were right about that. And it was very very helpful later in life. But the other point being that as a final note, children, very young children, being surrounded by women all the time. I'm not sure that that creates a balanced view of the world. That
Mm.
men tend to be outside of this sphere,
Mm. Mm.
and I think we overcomplicate it a lot of the time. And I think it can be said simply. We need to understand in life that opposites exist everywhere, as do contradictions. And we have hot and cold, we have left and right, we have up and down, we have yin and yang, and everything has, as there is everything, there is nothing, right? Everything requires something to balance it with. And that is seen throughout the natural world. And the personally, from my perspective, the preservation of that principle is necessary to provide a logical focus for the future. And there's something called the slippery slope, or the gradual downward spiral progression of society, which is the understanding that every society has a tipping point at which it imbalances and moves in a way which is unhealthy for it. And societal gradualism is the slow incremental encroachment and approach of negativity that grows very slowly, that people don't realize. And an example of this would be something changing by percentage point 1 point per year. Yeah. So maybe it's 30% of, doesn't matter what topic it is, 30% this year. But fast forward 20 years, it'll be 50% if it changes by 1% per year. Having 30% of something is very different from having 50% of something. And that connects to the downward spiral of single parenting, which is that at this present moment in time of, is it in my book? Is it in one of my books? I've got a really good book on. I've got to have to one sec. I've got it in the kitchen. Hold on a sec. One sec. This is a very, very rare book. I'm talking super rare book. There are very, very few copies of this book. This was a book produced by
Uh-huh.
lawyers,
Mhm.
and it explains what happens when only the mother or only the father bring up the child without the other parent present.
Mm.
And it goes through each aspect of life that the child has to deal with,
Mm.
and the negative effects of having only the perspective of one parent during that process. And it's basically 100 pages of research and information and study done by
Mhm. Psychologist, yeah.
lawyers and psychologists who work
Mm.
with children who only experience life with one parent. Yeah, and it's it's very difficult to read, not because it's technically complicated, because it's
Mhm. Mhm.
emotionally
Mm.
really, really
Yeah, I
powerful,
understand. Yeah,
really,
yeah.
really, really powerful. And the point being that at this moment in time, if you have two parents, mother and father, and they live together and you're at home, there's an 80% chance that, no, sorry, there's a 50% chance that you will have a successful marriage, only 50%. If you're brought up by a single parent,
It's
there's
80.
only a, no, yeah, it's negative 80%. It's only a
Yeah, negative.
20%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
understand. Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
only a
Small
20%
chance, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
chance that you will have a successful marriage.
Mm.
And the point being that it's broken before you start.
Mm.
Everything is against the child before they even begin their journey. It doesn't matter what you do. The mother can't
But it's
replace the
happened, yeah.
father,
Mm.
and the father can't replace the mother, and you can't stop it because it's a percentage spiral that is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse by that incremental 1% per year. And it's and maybe I'm not sure, but on a personal level, I don't think there's any answer to it. Right? It's one of those horrible things in life where the doctor comes in the room and says, "I'm very sorry, they're going to die." Like, it's out of your control. There's nothing that anyone can do about it,
Mm.
and everybody wants to help the children, right? Naturally, if you're a good person, you want to be there for the children, you want to support them, you want to give them the networks of everything they need, and it, apparently, according to this book and the studies in it, it doesn't matter how many therapists and how many psychologists and how many special education teachers. it it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter if your father finds a new partner or your mother finds a new partner. It doesn't change anything.
Mm.
It's broken at some point
Mm.
in the past. And I didn't fully understand this until I came across a religious concept called intergenerational sin,
Mhm.
which is the fact that according to the Old Testament and Christianity, the children will pay for the mistakes of their
Mhm.
parents.
Mhm.
And then when I came across that, it all clicked. Now, for some people, they're smarter than me, so they got it sooner and earlier. They understood the terrible nature of the whole process. But when I learned about that, I was like, oh my God, it's not. Then I learned it's. Then I thought, oh, it's not new, right? Because the Old Testament is teaching this 2,000 years ago,
mm,
and I only learned this when I was like 45. You know, it took me 45 years to get to basic level one understanding of this topic. And some people are really smart, and they may understand it as teenagers, or they may understand it in their early 20s. The importance of these topics, but it's so hard for these children because they're fighting against the percentages,
mm,
and the percentages are so strong because that based on real mathematics, and it's it's hard. And then just as a final note, what do you do if you're a parent, right?
Are you afraid about you girls in connection with this all,
Like
theory and
that's a very good question, because I want to say no, but the truth is yes.
mm,
Because you want to say, oh, there's no problem. But the truth is, it is a problem. That's the truth of matters. It is a problem. And as a parent, knowing that this exists and knowing that there's a very, very, very small possibility of creating success
mhm,
from the complete negativity of everything. And that's what, like this, it's a serious topic. This is why every day in Great Britain, 3 men kill themselves because they can't see their children. That's a
mm,
statistic. More
mm,
than 1,000 men in Britain every year commit suicide because they can't see their own children.
mm,
And and so it's they're going through the mental process of, how can I help my children? The answer is, you can't, because it's already broken, because the
mm.
mistakes are in the
It's
past.
happened
Yeah,
before, yeah,
it's
yeah.
happened. It's
Mm,
already happened,
mm,
right? So it's a constant work in progress, right? No solutions exist. It's one of those, it's one of those, how do we stop the Titanic from sinking?
mm,
It's
mm,
going down, right? It's
mm,
going down. The horrible analogy is, it's like watching a car crash in slow motion, right? Yeah, you're just watching it all happen, and you're like, okay, 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 okay. And you have to be a fireman or a firewoman. And what this means is that you have to go around putting out fires all the time. Like everything's on
mm,
fire, and you just go around all the time putting out the fires. Yeah. And you have to approach it personally, from my perspective, you have to approach it with a sense of humor,
mm.
because
I understand that,
yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah. But
I
you,
you
you
know
you can't just cry, yeah,
yeah, no, exactly, like
yeah, and
like
be,
like all the
mm,
teachers losing their jobs, and you know education system breaking and things not working. You have a choice. You can choose to view this as a tragedy or a comedy. And maybe it is a tragedy, but you can't live in a tragedy.
mm.
So
Oh,
you have
you
to,
can, but not for a
yeah, yeah.
long time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, you can cry for a week, and then you got
Yeah,
to pick yourself up
yeah.
and get on with life, right? And so that means you have to view you kind of have to view everything as a comedy, which makes people think that, oh, you don't take it seriously. It's like, well, no, I take it very seriously. That's why the comedy is is important,
Mm,
because without, I did without comedy, society just kind of falls apart, because you got to have a laugh and you got to have your fun and you got to make a joke about the things because um, I had a company once. Just a very quick, sort of 30-second story. I had a company once. It was me and my friend. I had different companies with different people, but this was one company with one friend. And I was very serious about everything and getting everything organized. And my friend was very, as the French say, laissez-faire. He was like, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? And the classic sort of partnership, yin and yang, opposites and things.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was always very stressed about things, my friend would make a joke
Mm-hmm.
and say, relax. And that was extremely important. That's what helped keep things together.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I was the person running around doing everything, but my everything wasn't everything. There were other important things, like taking a step back and observing things and being social and having a drink with people and having a laugh and enjoying the moments of things. And that's what I learned from that whole process, right? That if you can't see the funny side of it, you're not going to get to the other side because you're going to get so frustrated and stressed that you're going to end up breaking yourself. And that's what happens with stress is stress stress is dis-ease, right? Dis-ease means stressed. The body is stressed, so you get sick. So so that's why I can talk about this topic and I can laugh about it because there's no other choice in life, right? You either take it so seriously that that it becomes negative for you, or you take a step back and you breathe and you be like, and you pray to God that God has solutions that you don't have, and that that from my perspective as a Christian, service to God will lead me to the right place, me not knowing what that is. Yeah. So so thank you for asking. Is it hard? Your question was, is it hard? Yeah, or is it personal? Yeah, and there's no solution, right? There's no solution to it at all, and that's it's but people have to deal with that every day. Like some people like lose an arm, right? And they can't get it back, and they got one arm, right? I mean, people have to deal with, like, people get cancer and they get really sick and they have to deal with it, right? So, and you've got to see the funny side of all those things. So, and it's a Jordan Peterson philosophy. He says, life's a tragedy or a comedy. You choose. And as you said, it might be a tragedy, but your friend dies, your parents died. There are tragedies in life, and you cry and you're sad, and then you pick yourself up and you find a way to move forward. So, yeah. And where did this come from? The kindergarten teachers, a lot of them, and the students being female, and that's not a bad thing. That's really, it's because women have this great empathy with and for children, and seeing a woman being empathetic with a child and the positivity and the love and the relationship there is a beautiful thing, right? So it's not bad. It's it's one of those ironic things in life, it's maybe it's not bad at all, but it's always for me funny. It's like people talk about equality of everything, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that, right? And as you pointed out, the men look at, a lot of the men look at, oh, how much money do I make doing that? And they go, No. And they go into like, I would rather be a car mechanic, or I'd rather
Yeah.
learn to
Probably.
program or work in security systems or be a lawyer or do something in an insurance company or something like that, right? But the women are like, no, I want to work with kids. And they're like, I know I'm not going to make a lot of money, but I
Yeah.
like it. And you know, it's 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 not a bad thing. People might want to make it look bad. It's not a bad thing in and of itself. Yeah. We want women to be women and men to be men.
Yeah.
And not too much the other way, because
Exactly. Exactly.
it would it would just be strange. Oh, okay. Okay.